Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Now back home on the Lord Street, the market started off the week on a strong footing with the 2% rally. The Nifty regained the 10,250-odd mark while we saw a 700-point rally in the Sensex. That led it to end above that 34,000 mark. Remember, the charge was led by some banking names, with the index ending shy just below that 25,000-odd marks. The mid-cap index as well outperformed, rallying closer around 3%. But at the end of the day, the FIs had used this opportunity to sell closer around 2,000 crores odd. Anisha, tell us all about trade setup this morning.
Oh, well, yes, I'll come to that. But as you mentioned, it was a stellar rally yesterday, a 2% plus gain both on the Sensex and the Nifty. As you mentioned, the Sensex gained around 700 points. And it were the big names like ICICI Bank, SBI, L&T that were really rallying from the front. But the move was really secular. Pharma was doing as well. And there were other names from different sectors that were really moving higher. But as you mentioned, the disappointing part was that the FIIs used this opportunity to sell again. Remember, this is one of the biggest selling that we have seen in the recent times when it comes to the month of October. Yesterday itself, the FIIs sold around 2,200 crore rupees in the cash markets. Yes, the DIs again pumped in money, but they pumped in money close to around 2,500 odd crores. So important to see how long really DIs can support these outflows that the FIIs have been indulging in. As far as cues for today is concerned, well, the global cues are very volatile to say the least, because we had seen these wild swings in the US trade yesterday. We have been pointing out how Dow moved around 900 points in yesterday's trade, up around 350 points at one point of time, down about 500 points at one point of time, and ending with a cut of around 250 points. Remember, the S&P has also ended in the correction territory now, so something really too important to watch out for from the technical standpoint. Now, why was US so volatile? Of course, the earnings have been a bit weaker than expected. We had seen cuts in Amazon earlier as well. Yesterday also the cut continued. Even Netflix was coming under a bit of pressure. Remember, Facebook and Apple reports its numbers this week. So the tech stocks were very volatile in session yesterday. What, however, supported the US market was the fact that the banking names like Citi as well as JP Morgan were doing well. Other than that, there is a risk of escalation when it comes to the US-China trade war, because the understanding is that if things don't go right when Mr. Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping meet, then there is a possibility that there can be additional tariffs in the month of December itself, and that has what has led to a bit of nervousness in the markets. Europe, on the flip side, was really, gung-ho yesterday because it closed up about in the green. There the auto sector surged on reports of some China's tax cut, etc. HSBC reported a very strong set of numbers, and that showed really in the index as well. Other than that, some headlines coming out of Germany that Angela Merkel will not run for the 5th time, but that doesn't seem to have had any impact on the stock markets per se for now, because the German DAX was also outperforming. Separately, what we watch out for is crude as well as US index. The numbers coming up on your screen. Brent is still below the $77 per barrel mark. As well as if you look at the US index, that is a bit of niggling worry. We are again back at the level of 96.7. But yesterday, the rupee strengthened a tad bit. We had positive news flow in terms of the OMO, etc. And that supported the currency market as well a bit. So let's see how today pans out in terms of the currency. But separately, Asia this morning has been volatile. Remember, Kospi actually opened in the red, but there was some news regarding the financial authorities there coming in to support the stock market, because that one is also sitting at a 2-year cut, but now back above the 2000 level. Nikkei as well was very volatile when they started off this trade, but that one also has moved in the green. SGX Nifty, for starters, is suggesting a start around the same level of around 10,250, so just 4 points lower than what was yesterday's close. Yes, a 30-point lower from the futures number if you look at that. So basically, maybe we'll be settling around that level. Other than that, important levels to watch out for. As per experts, on the downside, watch out for 200, 10,200 and 10,150. And on the upside, 10,300 will act as a bit of resistance. But of course, for the Indian markets, the most important domestic cue is the earnings. So we are keeping an eye out on all the earnings that are trickling in.
All right, Anisha, as we said, the FIs were net sellers in the cash market, but importantly, they bought more longs than shorts, they bought more calls than puts, and they wrote some puts as well. So from the derivative markets at least, they were looking at least a little bullish, given that they sold closer on 2,000 crores. But that's about the FIs. What about stocks and news?
Well, a lot of stocks and news, and I mentioned that earnings will be in focus. But before I come to that, let me get it done with other news pieces. So HDFC Bank will be in focus because RBI has given its approval to reappoint Mr. Aditya Puri as MD and CEO till October 2020. So this has come for a period of now next 3 years. So that is something to keep an eye out on. Tata Power, well, there was a con call yesterday where the management sounded very confident that all the recommendations of the HPC or the high-powered committee will be accepted. So that might even give some more fillip to the stock despite the 10-15% up move that we saw yesterday. Coffee Day will be in focus because the board has approved taking up some debentures of around 100 crores. This is to restructure their old finance. Jet Airways, yesterday that stock was quite a bit in focus. Now it has clarified on the defaults regarding the lease rental plans and said they're doing all efforts that are possible to improve the liquidity. CSE will be in focus because remember 31st October, which is tomorrow, is the record date for the shareholders to be eligible for the demerged entity shares. So that will be in focus today. BPCL, now coming to the numbers, BPCL was a bit of big miss when it comes to the earnings because not only the margins contracted by 210 basis points, the gross refining margins came in at $5.57 per barrel versus our expectation of $6.1 per barrel. And even if you look at the numbers, the net profit and revenue below our estimates. So a thumbs down for BPCL. Union Bank of India, there was a bit of positive that the slippages are low, but the balance sheet strength is also missing and the P&L was also not very impressive. So interesting to see how that one pans out today. HDFC, ANC, well, nothing too enthusing about the numbers because the AUM has actually declined quarter on quarter and the revenue is also flat. On the flip side, Granules reported a very strong set of numbers, so we'll watch out for that. Just Dial also reported a steady set. Mahindra Holidays, there was some accounting change, but that one is reported a net profit decline of 54%. And lastly, let's just pull up LIC Housing Finance because the net profit there was bang in line with the expectations. In fact, a tad bit better, Nigel.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that, Anisha. Well, let's slip into a short break. But up next, as the tensions rise between the Reserve Bank of India and the government, we tell you what top economists and bureaucrats they're making of these latest developments.